All right, welcome to Radio Cope-A-Cetic. It's Orlando with my boy Chris Cope.
Woo!
So we got a very special guest on the show today, and the right kind of guest to have as well. Please welcome, fighting out of Long Island. So you used to Sound Beach, Rocky Point.
Rocky Point.
My man James Jenkins on the show.
Mr. Jenkins.
Ultimate fighting contestant last year?
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the camp that you fought out of on Ultimate Fighter. Let's talk a little bit about the camp.
All right. Yeah. So I wound up being a part of. I was on Team Faber.
Okay.
And that was. I mean, that was a great experience. You know, I had all these guys, all relatively around my size. You had guys like No Love, Cody No Love, Garbrandt. Touchy Feely, Andre Touchy Feely. He's a cool dude.
He's a cool dude.
Faber. And then we had another guy, Lance the Party Palmer. He was a World Series of Fighting champ.
Were these fighters or wrestlers? Party Palmer.
They actually didn't fight at all. They was just.
What was Faber like as a coach?
Faber was he was cool, man. Like you could tell, they had a very, very, very structured system. Like the way like they call down combinations, everything was broken down. Very like systematically, and like the way it was different than like usually if you're hitting pads, people like 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
They had like everything broken down to like such a science on how they wanted. It actually took like a little bit to learn their system, but once you kind of get in the rhythm of it, you could see why they do it because they could call out so much stuff so fast. It was definitely very like cool and a little bit of an enlightening experience working with those guys.
Do you look at Faber differently now that you had him as a coach as opposed to just watching him on TV?
I gotta say, Faber definitely, for what I thought he was going to be, he was kind of that. Like, I think you see this like cool, laid back, like Cali guy, and it wasn't like a front. He wasn't like the type of guy who you meet him and he's an asshole. He was a very cool guy. And I kind of expect him to be the way he was, and he was, very informative, he was a really good coach, really knew his stuff.
Now, Chris, you were on Ultimate Fighter a couple of years before James. Mm-hmm. We are now Facebook Live as well with James Jenkins. Watching James on the show, what changed? Like, was it like an out-of-body experience, or was it so different from when you were on that it was a different show?
I mean, it's similar. I mean, Jamie was still there, right? Jamie and all the other people?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like the house got upgraded. The house seemed a lot nicer than what we were in. Similar kind of concept. It seemed like you guys had the coaches challenge and everything like that, right?
We had a coach challenge. They did the watermelons from the helicopter.
Okay.
Nice. We won. Got some extra money for that.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I'm not going to try to sound egotistical, but it's like once you're on the show, you don't watch it anymore. Like,
right.
Before I got on the show, I was all about the Ultimate Fighter, and then you just kind of, once you get on, you stop watching it. And I don't know, have you been watching the ones lately?
I was always kind of bad at following the show. I watched when like teammates and people I knew were on, but I watched like early on, and then I kind of fell out.
Jenkins, don't lie to me. They basically like Bat Sarah go up to you like, James, I got you the Ultimate Fighter, and you're like, what's that?
No. I seen it, and they were doing the weight class above me, and I thought, it would be a good idea to fly out there and try out.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of on a whim, just go out there, fly to Vegas, and give it a shot.
Yeah.
And that was even trying out. That was actually really, really fun. Like I have a full-time job, so I flew out to Vegas, and I told my boss like, I'm either gonna be back on Monday if things don't work out, or I'm gonna need like the whole week off because I'm gonna be in Vegas. And he was a cool dude. I had off the whole, and Al came out with me. We had and you're doing this whole tryout thing, like they're interviewing you and.
So did you have to grapple? Like, because when I tried out for the thing like 4 times, you had to grapple for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you hit mitts for 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. And then you talk to the producers for it.
Yeah, same thing.
So there's a physical audition as well?
Yeah.
They had us wait around. Like, I got out there. I had 2 other teammates tried out with me. We go to this room. We got there on time, which was way too late because this line like wrapped
no, it's crazy.
all the way around the room. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding. There were like 400 people in there. We were like towards the end,
right.
But we on my part of the line was like the only smart part. We grabbed chairs and we waited, and we're waiting this whole entire time. And I'm thinking that this is the tryout. No, that was to get a number to go try out.
Oh man.
So then like that was like in the morning. I didn't get to try out till hours and hours and hours later. And then, we had to grapple. They're calling out guys. And then that was even kind of a little bit of a scary process. The show was we were a bunch of 155 pounders. They also triumphed for 170, which didn't make it at all. So that kind of sucked. Those guys went there for no reason. But then you're looking around the room, and these guys saying that they're 55 pounders. There's guys there that were like 210 pounds. They're like 6 foot. I'm like, that guy's not 155. This is bullshit, you know. Like, and then they're calling, you're gonna to grapple this guy, and you thinking it's random. So I'm like, they might match me up with this like monster next to me to grapple. I'm gonna look bad if the guy's like, some nasty guy who's got 60 pounds on me. And then, but I wound up wrestling this Russian kid who he was kind of an odd guy, but he was nice, and he was pulling guard. I did good against him. It was a good match, and then we went on. I hit pads with Al. Al held for me. It was good. I had like a friend, and then we did the interview, which I don't know. Did you have the same?
Yeah,
guy?
I did the interview too. I mean, it was funny because when you go in there, like you have no idea who you're gonna get matched up with. You get matched up with a world class 4-time world champion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt or some kid that has no idea what's going on. And they literally tap hands, and for their knees, you grapple as hard as you can go for like 30 seconds. But they tell you before, don't go hard. Like, we want to see technique. We don't care about submissions. No, they care about what's going for the kill.
Yeah, how do you not go hard? I mean, you're auditioning for the chance of a lifetime at this point. Your adrenaline's got to be kicking. How do you lay back?
Absolutely. And the funny part too is like everybody looked exhausted after like a 30 and we all got there like in shape, but it's intense. You had Joe Silva, who was the matchmaker for the UFC. I don't believe Dana was there. They had him. There were a couple of fighters. There was one of the Czech fighters was watching. I guess she was judging. And Sean Shelby. You got like all the guys who pick the fights and bring people into the UFC are watching. You like, I can't look bad. Everybody's going nuts, and we're all fucking exhausted. I don't know if you curse.
No, that's good. We want you to be Mr. Jenkins. Let's talk McGregor. So, what is when you first got introduced to McGregor? What was that introduction like?
All right, so the very first time got to see him. So now we were out in, it was kind of cool because, I'm a fan of the sport as well.
Give us an idea of what time it was, like what year it was when you met McGregor. Like, where was he on the UFC scale at this point?
He was going up to have his title fight against Jose Aldo.
Okay.
And that was crazy, too. We even got to meet Aldo on the show, and he was a great guy, and then not knowing what was going to happen. I think at the time, Conor was the interim champ. He had beaten, Chad Mendes. Yep. So, but he beat Chad on short notice, so that was a whole thing, too. But, so me and the guys, we hadn't fought yet. The Americans who had to fight to get into the house, and we're all outside. It's this time of the year in Vegas last year, so it's hot as hell. And we're standing outside, and the car pulls up, and Conor gets out, and we see him, and I think he's working out. He was wearing some crazy leotard, some very tight, and he's bouncing around. But but it was still kind of cool because it's still a little like that's Conor, like Conor's like this. I mean, like very big name, he's regardless of how you feel about him, his career has been super impressive. Yeah. So kind of looking over at him. And then we didn't get to really meet him till like he was watching the fights. It was him, Dana, and Faber watching this fight to get into the house. And he didn't talk to us much there. I remember like he said something about us. He's like, I remember I guess he thought we were Europeans when we were walking out. He's like, you're not on my team, get away. But and then I guess we didn't get to see him so much in the beginning. Like one thing, I don't know how many people followed the show when he was on, but he wasn't. I thought we kind of lucked out with our coaches. We had Faber, who was making it to every practice. Right. He was there all the time. Where Conor wasn't showing up for the morning practice. I don't know what he was doing out there. I'm guessing he was having some fun. I think he liked to party a little bit, so he'd show up to the later practice. So we wouldn't even see him in the morning. So and the other funny thing was we were in Vegas, and it's it's hot as hell, and every day that dude would show up in the suit. He would always show up in the suit everywhere, some crazy tight suit, and
I'll give him he's well dressed. He's like one of the most well dressed guys in UFC.
Yeah, I know. It's wait, this guy would show up to practices in a suit?
Well, when we would have to do like meetings and walkouts and things he got pissed one time too. He got really mad. In the beginning, you could tell it seemed like he didn't really want to be there at all in the beginning of the show. I remember one day they said we were going to do pictures, right? So when they said we were going to do pictures, of course he shows up, all dressed up in his suit. Faber dresses the same. He's in shorts and sandals, no matter what it is. He'll probably show up to a wedding like that. Yeah. And so Connor gets there. He's all dressed up in his nice suit, and then they canceled the pictures, and he was pissed, man. He was really, really pissed. You kind of got the vibe in the beginning. Maybe he didn't want to be there. That kind of changed as the season went on, and I think he kind of liked it after a certain point. But in the beginning, I think he was kind of like, you got to figure too. He's been doing like long tours for them. He's been everywhere. He hasn't gone home. We talked to him a bit. He hadn't been back to Ireland in a really, really long time. So I guess he was getting a little fed up at the time.
So Chris and I watched UFC 202 together. Mm-hmm. After the fight was over immediately, Chris said he would call it a draw. I agree that it should have been a draw, but I want to get as many fighters' standpoints as possible on this, because the internet, there's probably been more fights caused by this fight than anything I've seen. I mean, the names people are calling each other. What do you think of the fight? Diaz, McGregor 2. Do you think anyone won?
Yeah, well, one I'm going to say, I'm not really biased on this one. I like Nate and I like Connor. Sure. So I was just pulling for a good fight. To me, Connor won. He definitely won round one. Mm-hmm. The way the scoring criteria is right now, I'd like to see him open up and score more 10-8s.
Right.
But the way it is now, I'd say, all right, so 10-9 Connor there. Second round, some people thought Nate won.
That's the controversial round, because people use round 2 as the round to argue over who won, because that's like the one round nobody could decide on. Tell us, both of you guys, why that round was so hard to score.
Well, to me, Connor dropped him 3 times, I think, in that round. So he dropped him 3 times. And he looked, I thought, flat in the fight. He looked amazing. The first 8 minutes of that fight, you could see all the work he was doing. I was kind of curious. Connor never throws leg kicks. He do, like in the first fight, you do one like those little oblique kicks to the knee, but he doesn't really throw leg kicks. He throws the spinning kicks. But you could tell he worked a lot on that. He also seemed to be managing, not trying to go for the kill shot, not blowing up his punches. And I thought the way the fight started looking, he was mixing his punches and kicks, and he was tagging Nate. I thought he was going to just run away and maybe knock him out, or the fight was going to look at for the full 5 rounds. But he seemed to hit a wall. Like 8 minutes into the fight, he kind of, I'm like, did he just get gassed? I'm like, I don't even know how. It looked like everything was going his way. But then, and then Nate kind of rallies the last 2 minutes of the round and starts putting it on him a bit. But I still don't think what Nate did was enough to overcome. I thought the round looked like a 10-8 round to start for Connor, and Nate comes back at the end. So maybe now it's a 10-9.
Sure. Chris, do you see the closeness as to why people can't figure out who won round 2?
Yeah, it was back and forth, but it's Diaz's style is much like his brother. They're in their face, they're boxing, and with Conor looking like he's gonna get gassed, you think that Diaz is actually winning the fight, but then Conor also knocked Diaz down a couple times. Right. So, I'd give Connor the beginning of the fight. I'd give him basically the end, and then I think Diaz got the middle.
Yeah, round 3 was definitely 100% Diaz. So.
Well, a lot of people think, and round 5 is also controversial, because towards the end of that fight, McGregor wasn't only backing up, and from a fan standpoint, they say Connor ran.
Yeah,
they're jogging.
yeah. Light little jog.
But he was looking at the clock. And that's where I think a lot of people are not only angry, but looking towards Diaz a little bit, because it went from this aggressive fight where they were going at each other to Connor realizing, I'm going to win on points.
Well, they were still fighting through. I didn't look at. I've seen fights where the guys weren't engaging. They go right back into engaging after he kind of did his little trot away. It didn't look terrible to me. I flat out remember the one fight when the guy ran from Corey. It was a Corey and he was running around the ring. That was running like that. Maybe he didn't go in there and I don't know, fighting every single exchange he could. I thought he was kind of maybe trying to manage. Not getting completely gassed out, but
do you agree with Diaz that the judges should have taken points away for that?
No, I don't think. I don't think there's anything there to take points from. I think McGregor won. It's 3-2.
Well, let's take a look at it. So McGregor pulls Diaz aside and says, "Hey, We made some money last fight.
Right.
What do you make? What do you say we make some more money this fight? Well, how do we do that? Well, we just carry each other through the rounds. Possibly he's looking up at the clock to say, hey, you know what? On the third round, I got to keep going. Diaz just keep grinding away. Conor made $15 million. Diaz made like 11 or 12 million. Diaz is happy. He doesn't care win, lose, draw. He got paid.
That's his best friend right now.
Yeah,
He
Diaz.
loves it.
Diaz only wants to fight McGregor, and that's it. Because that is the biggest payday Diaz will ever make.
Especially Nate too. Nate's been wanting more money his whole career. He's been wanting more money, and McGregor is his best friend. That's like he loves him.
Like
now.
McGregor's his lucky rabbit's foot that beats him up.
No McGregor. Nate never gets this payday. He's thanking everybody.
But
that
on a real serious question, Jenkins, how much weed do you think he's gonna buy with $15 million? Like I can just see the Diaz brothers and what they do, and he's just sitting like on a big like ton of weed.
Did you see him at the post fight? He had that oil.
Yeah, what's he thinking?
He was smoking.
Like he's trying to get suspended. He's like, I just got paid. I don't even
doesn't give
care.
a shit.
But isn't that Diaz, like everyone's talking about how McGregor, all the smack talking and stuff was McGregor building up his persona, his character. Isn't Diaz smoking that oil pretty much solidifying his persona as the anti-hero who just doesn't give a crap?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think with Conor, I think Conor has a I think his persona, I think what he does is he kind of turns the volume on everything he feels very loud. Like I don't think he's completely I don't think he's making things up, but I think he's just amplifying. Like that guy gets a chance. Like when we see him on the show, like when the camera was on him, he knew it, and he would definitely act out more, and he would say more things whenever the camera was on. And I think he understands that part of the fight game. Like you need to make yourself a draw. You need to make it's hard to be known if you're a nice guy. If you say, "Oh, I respect my opponent. He's a great guy. We're gonna have a great." People don't care about that. They care about that, and then you get this Irishman. Americans love. Like I don't know why. Like we don't embrace Americans so much. We embrace people are going crazy. Like in Boston, this guy everywhere this guy goes, they love him. If I in Vegas, you could hear the old lady whatever in the crowd, the whole crowd going nuts. They love him.
Well, I think the craziest thing about him is he's calling his shots. He's like predicting what he's gonna do.
And I think what he does definitely plays an effect psychologically in a lot of guys. Maybe not so much Nate, especially too. I think once you realize that this guy's putting money in your pocket every time he does this stuff, if you're getting pay-per-view points with him, I think same thing that you've seen with Chael and Anderson, where I think originally he hated this guy, and then he's seen the revenue the guy brought him, and he's like, all right, go ahead, talk,
Yeah.
For $13 million, you guys could both punch me as hard as you want. I'll get over it eventually.
Yeah, I mean, those guys, and I mean, this is what I keep telling people over and over again. You can love Conor McGregor, you can hate him, but you can't deny what he's doing for the sport. He's getting these guys paid.
Absolutely. And, but I was going to say, though, with Nate, though, too, I don't think Nate's putting on a persona. I think that's Nate. I think that's just who he is. Like, I had a lot of friends who, they would get really, they always hated, the Diaz's. And I'm like, no, man, you got these guys are fighters. Like, these guys are great to watch. I love watching them fight. They're just intense dudes. But they hate their whole act. I'm like, that's not their act. That's just kind of that's what they're all about.
They have to, and I don't know if you can agree with this, Jenkins, but before you fight someone, sometimes you gotta get in your head that you don't like them. And
some guys need that. Yes.
The whole thing when you stare off and you have weigh-ins, like the one thing that always weirded me out was guys that tried to be my buddy before the fight. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I don't want to shake your hand. I don't want to hang out with you. I don't want to grab lunch. We're gonna be fighting each other real soon, and then you got the other guys that
But is that a tactic too?
Oh yeah, 100%.
I used to. Honestly, now I'm at the point. I had 10 amateur fights and 9 professional fights, or no, I had 10 professional fights. So I've had 20 fights where same feelings. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, I tried to do I remember I loved Mike Tyson, and I would. I listened to him talking about staring at the guy and breaking the guy.
Mike Tyson.
And I tried doing that. I did that at a fight. I remember trying to just be looking angry at this guy the entire day. We've seen each other. It was so and we're in a hotel room. We were in Seneca Falls in upstate New York. It was a split amateur pro card. And I tried looking angry at this kid everywhere we went, and I'd see him everywhere, and I'm just mean mugging him the whole time. And then we had to do we waited in the morning, and then we had to do a fake weigh-in later on in front of a crowd. And we had to stand next to each other the whole time in the back, and I'm just still mean mugging him, looking angry, being quiet. then the fight, like I remember too, like same thing. The fight starts, and I'm grilling him as he's coming out, like in the cage, grilling him as he crosses, and it's just like so much energy to look pissed at him. I'm like, I'm never doing this again. Like it's not. Now I don't care. I really I don't have I don't have hatred for an opponent. I like if we brought a new guy in for me to spar that wasn't like a teammate. There's a good chance it might feel like a fight. It's going to be the same emotions. But some guys need to have like hate for the guys that fight. The Diaz's are like that. No. They fight like they liked when you looked at Nick fought BJ Penn.
Yeah.
Him and BJ were cool before that.
Yeah.
You watch that fight, he's like pushing him and stuff, and you see BJ's like, "What the hell's going on?"
What are you doing, dude? We used to hang out.
Yeah. But they're like, guys, if we're gonna fight you, we're enemies. That's some people just need that mentality.
I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, everything with a fighter I've learned just from hanging out with Chris and some of the guys we talked about, it's a different mentality, and I guess it has to be when your job is to hurt. I get. In the end, you want to win the fight, but really what you're doing to win the fight is hurting someone, and that has to be, I mean, Chris is one of the nicest guys in the world, and James, you and I are talking, you seem like a great guy, but your job is to hurt someone, which goes against being a nice guy.
I think, though, you get, like, desensitized to that over time. Like the very first time I went to a gym, I went to a gym in Sound Beach. I really didn't know how to fight, and, like, I remember, like a guy in front of me, and he was this big dude telling me like to hit him, and I'm like, I didn't want to hit a guy, I'm like, like afraid to throw a punch, like I don't want to hit you in the face and try to hurt you, and then you kind of get used to that though. You hit it now. I spar with my friends, good friends, and I hit them hard, and it just kind of goes away after a while. It doesn't really. I don't feel bad about hitting somebody hard. It just kind of becomes, second nature to try it. Now, difference is now, if I hated a guy I was going to fight, maybe you do something like, you get that choke and you can leave it on a little bit longer. Right. Maybe look at when Bisping fought Henderson the first time, and Henderson gave him that last shot. He didn't have to. It might have just been like
shut him up.
Yeah, just that little extra.
Well, Dana White says it was adrenaline, but he wanted to hurt him.
Totally. Hendo even told me. I said, Hendo, why'd you hit him after you knocked him out? He's like, I just wanted to shut him up, and that was it. I'm like, all right.
Now, do you believe Dan Henderson fighting for a title? How old is he? 45?
500.
I think when it just his birthday. I think his birthday just passed. So
I remember being at Team Quest when he turned 40, and we all jumped on him and held him down and hit him, like, spanked him and stuff, and then he threw us all off. But, dude, that would be the most epic way. Like, I used to think Chris Lytle had the best retirement ever, because, he got fight of the night, he won his fight. Before the fight, he gave Dana that, like, little letter saying, thank you for everything. But I think Dan Henderson, if he knocks out Michael Bisping and he gets that strap, dude, there's no better retirement than that.
It's crazy to think that Dan Henderson could become the champion. I mean, it's crazy to think that if you told me Bisping was going to be a champ, I'd call you a liar.
Everyone thinks it's like, how did that happen? Like, how did Michael Bisping become the champion?
Well, he's always been like this top gatekeeper. I always thought like power strikers were always like his Achilles heel. Anytime he's against a big power striker, he seemed to lose. But a part of me, or as a fan, I love the fight. Like, Dan Henderson. I love Dan Henderson. Like, he's gonna get the fight. Michael Bisping it just sounds like make believe. But as a sport though, it kind of doesn't feel right though, because all right, Dan Henderson just goes and beats Hector Lombard, who was fighting 170. He had to leave 185 because he was losing. So he has this great knockout over Hector Lombard. I thought it was great, but that gets you a title shot. It's only a title shot because it's going to sell.
It's a money grab.
Right. So, but I mean, as a sport though, I mean, you had a contenders list. You had number 1, 2, and 3. Right. So you got my teammate. You got Weidman. You got Jacare, and you got who we beat in Rockhold. Right. So you skip those guys. It would be like if we had the playoffs and then the Browns got in, and we're like, I don't really like the Browns. That's it's kind of feel like it delegitimizes as a sport. It makes it more like entertainment at this point. You know what I mean?
We have to wrap up just a couple of minutes, but before we do, Chris, we had a couple of guests on, all from this one gym. So James, I just want you to represent your gym real quick, where you fight out of, and the fact that there are so many guys so successful out of that place.
Yeah, I fight out of, I think the best gym on Long Island. I train with Team Sarah Longo. I got Ray Longo and Matt Serra. They're and I got just a stable of great teammates. In the UFC we have Aljamain Sterling, Ali Quinta, Weidman, and then a bunch of other amateurs and other pro fighters that are up and coming. So I got some of the best guys I could work with out there, and it's great. Got me everything that I've got in my fighting career. So.
This is the crazy thing. It's all homegrown talent. All people from Long Island that are all in that area that they have come there and made it happen. That's the crazy thing. Because you take AKA, you take Black Zillions, you take all
Greg
these
Jackson,
camps.
all those guys,
Greg
right.
Jacksons. These people are all from all over the place going there. This is the only camp where it's homegrown talent out of there.
Right. We didn't, Weidman didn't become a champ and then move out to work at Ray Longo. He came up here.
And two of the biggest upsets ever in UFC history. Matt Serra knocking out GSP and Weidman knocking out Silva.
Yeah.
No,
it's amazing. And this is why, as a fan, I love doing this. Radio Cope-A-Cetic every week. We have different guests on. We get different viewpoints on fighting. And, fellas, I got to thank you both for coming in. This was a blast, especially on the heels of McGregor-Diaz, too. We'll have you both back in for McGregor-Diaz 3. You know that's happening.
it's me Diaz McGregor 20.
We'll see you next week on Radio Cope-A-Cetic.